There are 4 elements of good technique: fulcrum, balance point, hand positioning, and drum height. The fulcrum is the pivot point around which your stick bounces. The fulcrum is created by placing the stick in between the pad of your thumb and the second joint of your index finger. You will create your fulcrum at your stick's balance point, which will typically be around 1/3 of the way up from the butt of the stick. If you're using Vic Firth brand sticks, the flag on the shaft is the balance point, and you should place your thumb on that flag to create your fulcrum. You can remember this by calling it the 45 and 45 rule. Once your fulcrum is in place and your sticks are in hand vertically parallel, rotate your hands inward until your thumbs are facing one another at about a 45-degree angle. Now, move the heads of your sticks to form another 45-degree angle between one another. Bring your arms down to playing position at your drum. Your drum should be just under your waist so that your arms are almost parallel to the floor, reaching only slightly downward as to not inhibit any wrist movement. There should be a straight line from the wrist to the tip of the stick and 1.5 to 2 inches between your hands and the rim of the drum. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with these 4 elements. The overall goal of this grip is to keep you as relaxed and in control as possible. This, like all grips, is to help the performer play his or her instrument optimally. If you're tense while playing, the speed and accuracy at which you'll be able to perform will be severely limited, not to mention how tension mutes the sound produced by the drum. The piston stroke is named after a mechanical component which shoots up and down, and in that same vein, we're going to shoot down and immediately back up with the head of our stick. We begin with both sticks in the up position and hinging from our wrists, strike the drum and rebound back with the same velocity. Keep your fulcrum together but let the stick bounce in your hand as you play. Our other fingers can be lightly wrapped around the stick, but they aren't there for extra power. Your power should come from the velocity of your stroke. I think of this stroke as tossing the stick toward the drum head with a combination of fingers, wrists, and arm. I've added a few exercises in the link in the description if you want some free material to help you practice. The open roll, otherwise known as a double stroke. The double stroke is when one stroke is used to hit the drum twice. This will typically be notated with 2 parallel lines on the stem of a note. Since lots of percussion notation isn't standardized, it may also appear as an individual line on the stem, though this is less common. Most of the time, this single line on a stem just means to hit the drum twice instead of once, and not necessarily telling you that you need to use a double stroke. To perform the double stroke, we need to be able to control the rebound of our sticks. So, rather than hinging from your wrist like we did with the single stroke, begin by hinging from your elbow and add in your middle finger to support your fulcrum as needed. This will help you control the amount of bounces that are coming out of your stick. This technique can be difficult to master, but with practice, it's extremely valuable to your future as a percussionist. Just a side note, don't lock your wrist. You don't want to hinge from your wrist, but don't tense up and not allow for any movement whatsoever. This is going to inhibit the motion of the stick. Again, just stay relaxed and confident in yourself as you practice. 2 fantastic rudiments to help you improve your double stroke are the 5-stroke and the 7-stroke rolls. The closed roll is a multiple bounce roll, which I typically think of as 1 stroke to get 3 hits out of the drum, though more bounces are needed from time to time. I'm in university and 99% of the closed rolls that I perform are only triple bounce. The buzz roll is notated with either 3 lines or a Z on the stem. Simply put, the closed roll is just your fulcrum plus an elbow hinge, but we don't really need our middle finger for support this time. Rather, hold the stick in the down position longer for more bounces, and then simply lift up to end the sound. Connecting these hits evenly from hand to hand will result in a consistent sounding roll. Practice the exercises in the description and change the pressure of your fulcrum based on how consistent your roll is. Aim for a sound that is a sort of solid fuzz, like white noise or the ocean. A flame is an attack with 1 grace note. Even though we're using 2 strokes, think of this as 1 motion, not 2 separate ones. 2 great rudiments to practice developing your flam technique are the flam tap and the flam accent rudiments. Just an extra tip, if you have multiple flams in a row, use the same hand for the grace note every time. If we were to even out the rhythm with the sticking, it would be alternating single strokes, like I have on screen right now. This alternating sticking makes the flams more consistent and easier at higher tempi. Just for consistency, I would recommend keeping the grace note stick at a lower height than your main stick. A drag is notated with 2 grace notes. The overwhelming majority of the time, I think of drags as a flam, but with the grace note played as a double stroke rather than with a single. Therefore, you would get either left, left, right, or right, right, left. Occasionally we alternate the strokes, so right, left, right, or left, right, left, though this isn't really something you need to think about right now as a beginner. A ruff is notated by 3 grace notes leading to a final 4th strike. For snare, I recommend using the French technique to accomplish this. A single stroke, followed by a double in the alternate hand, and then by another single stroke, this time with emphasis. So the sticking would be right, left, left, right, or left, right, right, left. For keyboards and timpani, as we'll go over in a future video, we're going to be using alternating strokes. With flams, drags, and the ruffs, make sure you're emphasizing the final note because that's what the grace notes are gracing. Just another side note, sometimes you're going to see players refer to a drag as a ruff because historically drags and ruffs were a bit interchangeable with what you actually would call it. According to Robert McCormick in his book Percussion for Musicians, he makes the distinction that a drag has 2 grace notes on the same hand, whether they're single stroke taps or a double stroke, and a ruff has 3 grace notes. He calls these 4-stroke ruffs, played with alternating single strokes, because there are 4 strokes total if you alternate your sticking. The sticking I recommended above isn't considered a 3-stroke ruff like I thought that it was originally. A 3-stroke ruff is actually what people refer to drags as whenever they try to call it a ruff. So just so you get an understanding of where I'm coming from, that's how I'm defining a drag and a ruff. Again, make sure we emphasize the final hit with each of these rudiments. Now that we've covered the basic strokes and techniques on the snare drum, let's talk about where to strike the drum. Firstly, we need to stand with the snare release lever facing us and lined up with the center of our person. The snares, which stretch along the bottom of the head, should be extending evenly under your beating spots for a consistent sound. Imagine a straight line extending from the rim closest to you across the head to the rim farthest away. Your beating spots should mirror one another symmetrically on each side of this imaginary line. Where you strike the head of the drum will determine the quality of sound that is output. At piano, we want to strike about an inch away from the rim. Shown on screen is the beating spots for each dynamic. Mezzo piano is 3 inches from the rim, mezzo forte 5, and forte is about 7 inches. We don't need to keep our stick heights way in the air for all the beating spots either. Your stick height should match the distance to the rim. If you're playing at a piano dynamic, your stick should only be an inch from the head of the drum. A helpful formula my teacher gave me is stick height equals distance to the rim. So those were the basics of snare drum. This is the first video in a series I'm working on this summer to be a resource for beginner percussionists. Next, I'll be focusing on the basics of 2-mallet grip. So if you have any questions pertaining to any of these subjects, leave a comment or email me at logan@logangordy.com. Again, thanks for watching and happy practicing.